So thanks again, everyone, for joining us for this part 3 of my Surveillance Station for Everyone series. This one's going to be more targeted at the large enterprise scale integrations. This one, we'll be talking about how you can simplify the operation of multi-site surveillance with our system. That's a little bit wordy, so we can just call this one the CMS one. My name is Les Chilton. If you've seen the other two, you should be familiar with me by now, but I'm the product specialist for surveillance here in the UK, so you should be in safe hands this morning. And before we get into the meat of the matter, I'll just do a very quick recap on what we talked about in part 1.2. You might want to take a quick screenshot here. You can grab those 2 QR codes, which will take you to the previous videos. But as I said, you won't need to have watched those to get the best out of this one. But what we discussed how you could pick the best cameras and kit for your implementation in part 1. We also went through an out-of-the-box setup and installation. I will be going over that for the enterprise scale towards the end of this webinar, but the basics that would work in, even enterprise scale was discussed in the first one. I also went through how to set up camera views, schedules, and alerts. In part 2, we had a look at the AI functions that the cameras and the DVAs offer. We also looked at how you could use these features to power things like access control system alerts and make it easier to access the footage that you need. And finally, we did a little bit on how you can integrate with electronic point of sales devices. On to the present. This week, what we're going to be talking about is enterprise scale surveillance as a whole, all of the features and considerations that went into enterprise level scalability. We'll take a bit of time to talk about intelligent footage control. Now that you have the footage within our system, how do you keep it secure so that only your staff can access it and only for the means that you want them to? We're then going to spend a little bit of time talking about my favorite subject in the whole world. And finally, we will go over how I would plan a large-scale rollout for an enterprise-grade system. Starting, of course, as I said, with the enterprise-scale surveillance, we asked our customers what were the big challenges that they found when they were looking to implement their first security system or were looking to migrate from an aged security system. They came back and said that in the evaluation phase, it was all well and good finding several products that do exactly what they want, but they had a hard time finding compatibility across all of the products that they wanted to use across multiple vendors. In the deployment phase, when you've got multiple products connecting in multiple different ways, they found that it was quite complicated to learn the UIs for all of these products to get them to work well together. Operationally, when you're adding all of the new devices, there is the risk of adding additional security vulnerabilities to your overall network, which is quite ironic from a security system. And also on the management side of things, once you've got this up and running, it takes a while to manage, even if you have an external security team, to get them trained up, to get them set up, ready to go. With that in mind, we set these as target areas. Now, I know what you're thinking, 4 sections in the first section. How long do you expect us to be here, Les? But trust me, nice 25, 30-minute webinar this morning. So we'll go through these ones quickly. The evaluation side of things, again, the complexity of finding the right products to play with each other. Well, we support 8,300 different IP cameras across 140 brands. That includes, several systems for things like intercoms. I'm working towards integrating a new Hikvision one for one of our customers now. So if it's not on the list, we're always happy to look into adding new systems that people request. Several things like, fisheyes, PTZ, whatever you need, there's going to be something within there that will support it. On the deployment side of things, in the first webinar, I demonstrated how easy it is to add cameras. Now you have the auto search that will search the network that the NAS is connected to. And you can easily add the cameras multiple at a time from that menu. If your cameras are on a separate subnet or on a different network entirely, as long as you can authenticate it and as long as the NAS has got a path to be able to see it, even across the internet, you can authenticate across multiple networks to import your cameras that way. And if you have a large number of cameras that you want to import with pre-configured settings, we also offer the ability to import via spreadsheet, and I'll be demonstrating that towards the end of this one. Really sorry, guys, I'm just going to add in advance. I can't actually see the chat at the moment as we go through, so I'll try and get to questions at the end. We also offer Active Directory integration. So, rather than setting up individual users for your security team, you can integrate at the main operating system DSM level with Active Directory to import all of your users across. Once you've allocated them a group, you can quickly use that group to roll them in as surveillance users, so you can have your user base set up very, very quickly. On the operation side of things, we were worried about increased vulnerabilities. Now, as long as the camera supports HTTPS and SRTP, then we can support encrypted connections between the camera and the NAS itself, meaning that you can't intercept the footage anywhere along the line. And then, of course, connections from the Synology NAS to your device, whether it's one of our visual stations, whether it's a mobile or physical PC device, that is HTTPS encrypted. We also offer Archive Vault, which, as with all of the software that we offer, is free to install and to use. This is simply a method through which you can set a schedule for copying the footage from your individual devices. So if you have several devices across several branches, you can copy those off to one central location and then clear the archive, meaning you don't need to stock all of your individual branches full of enough data to store for any length of time. You can put it into a much higher density environment, which is easier to manage. And of course, it means that if the on-site branches are broken into and the device is taken, the footage is actually archived elsewhere. On the management side of things, for ease of use for your operators, we have our multi-location alert tracking maps. I've demonstrated those before, but here you go. As you see, when an event pops up, the mapping can be used to bring your attention to that. So if you have one security team that are looking after several locations, it's nice and easy for them to monitor all of those sites in that way. We also offer multi-floor support. So if you have a multi-floor building, again, the maps will be able to support you and your staff will be able to see, in real time where the events are happening, or draw their attention to it, and they can open the cameras. I went over this in more detail in the first webinar. And on top of that, you have the online map integration with GPS. So if you have several locations, either nationwide or globally, again, one of the most common configurations, you have one map which is showing, your global presence or your national presence, and then you have the individual maps of the locations, and your security staff can just switch to the cameras that are flagged in the alert system if an event goes off. We also have, of course, our central management system, CMS, for surveillance, but bear with me on that one. I've got a whole section on that coming up. We'll talk about it in more detail in just a moment. Before that, though, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how to secure the footage, how we secure the footage once it's within our infrastructure. And first and foremost, it's pretty standard across the board in across most products these days, but we also support multi-factor authentication. With ours, we use biometric identification. That's using the fingerprint scanners on mobile devices to log in, and also one-time passwords. We do have a few others, but those tend to be the more popular. Once you've logged in and authenticated, we have quite a robust permission setting system. Now, this is based on there being observers and managers, but within those two categories, you can set as many different profiles as you like with different settings. And in addition to the settings that you see here on screen, you can tailor this to by device in CMS or by location, even down to the individual camera level. So you can tailor exactly who can access what in real time. And in addition to all of these features here, another very powerful feature that we have is the ability to set action times. So your IT manager, you want them to be able to access it 24/7, just in case there's an overnight outage, be able to hop on immediately. But for people like your security guards, perhaps you want to make sure that there's no way for them to log in off shift, either remotely or to come into the office when they shouldn't be in there to download footage. So you can tailor it even to when your staff are on shift will be the only time that they're able to access it. And of course, this is pretty easy to edit in real time if there's shift switch arounds, etc. Now, in this day and age where everyone's got one of these, okay, mine's a poor example. I've got something covering my camera, but it is worth considering what we can do to stop staff from doing things like just recording the screen and being able to link that across to the press or just post it to social media, which can be quite damaging and especially embarrassing if you're a security firm. To that end, we have privacy and watermarking features. So it's nice and easy to just put a watermark in that shows the login name. And with that, you're able to instantly tell where the footage came from, which acts as a pretty strong deterrent for anyone leaking it. And now, as promised, to talk about my favourite subject in the whole world. Believe me, I am great fun at Christmas parties. Is our surveillance CMS platform. Now, I've ranted and raved about this for the last two webinars, but if this is the first one that you've attended, CMS is essentially the method by which you can join up to 1,000 systems into one centralized login and manage all 1,000 devices in the same way. You can have up to 10,000 cameras across all of those devices. So that means that, you know, whether you have several branches here in the UK or you're an international trader with branches all over the world, you can manage your camera views, things like updates, etc., all from that one centralized location. But that's just scratching the surface. You have, as I said, multi-site management. You can make the sort of admin changes, things like scheduling updates and rollouts just from that one portal, meaning it's a lot easier to manage for the technical staff that maintain it. In terms of user accessibility, as I'll demonstrate in a second, it seamlessly allows you to drag cameras in from multiple locations. So you can have one site. If you saw the part 2 webinar that I ran last time, we had a case study from Chausson, where they have 350 sites in France that are being managed by a security team of 3, because they're able to monitor all of those cameras from one location and one login. We have automatic failover. So, you know, for your critical footage areas, you could have one device dedicated per site that would be able to kick in if one of the devices fails, and you can reroute all of the cameras to there to minimize your downtime. It takes literally less than 60 seconds. And if your cameras use edge recording, then that means that, you know, you're not losing any footage at all. And your live view is down for, you know, usually around about 20 to 40 seconds in my actual experience. And finally, you also have easy archiving. I spoke a little bit about Archive Vault earlier, but yeah, makes it nice and easy to maintain. It's a little bit cheaper in that you know, you can sort of scale up the storage a lot more accurately as your footage volume grows. And of course, it's a bit more secure to have the backup offsite just in case there's a break-in on individual branches. But don't just take my word for it. A small company you might have heard of, IHG. They own Holiday Inn among 9 other brands, and for nearly 5,000 hotels across the world. They approached us with a problem with their aging system in Saudi Arabia. Notice how I'm avoiding butchering any of those place names. The problem was that their system was getting a little bit old. They weren't really happy with the quality that they were getting, and it was starting to struggle a little bit in the 50-degree heat out there. What we offered them was a 560 camera solution across the 3 sites, hosted across 17 different devices. So they're able to put devices into the areas around the hotel to make the networking easier for those cameras. And with the CMS, they were able to view the feeds from one central location across the sites, and also to maintain a 20-day archive in the backrooms, which was more secure and more difficult for anybody intruding to get to. But as they say, seeing is believing. So what we'll do quickly is I'll just take you through a demo of what CMS is and how it actually looks. Fairly simple here, but what we're going to do is we're going to go into the main menu, and there is an application for CMS. And as you can see here, I have 1,000 connected devices. They're all clones of each other, hence why each one has exactly 10 cameras. But if we go into any of the individual devices, we can open that up and we can get a better view of the system. We can see the version of the operating system that it's running on. We can see its individual IP address if we needed to connect to it for any reason. If we go into the IP camera, Unfortunately, because these are dummy systems, it has recognized that all 10 of the cameras across each of those systems are the same. But nipping back off here into where you'll actually manage the system, if we go into the monitor center, you get a much better proof of concept as to how this will actually work for your surveillance staff. Now, if you've seen any of my demos before, you're familiar with the layout view. While this is going on, I just want to bring your attention to that section in the bottom left there. In all of the previous demos, you'll notice that the cameras are connected to the local host or the device that we're connected to. But in this example, you're able to see each of the devices that's connected via CMS. And you can just click and drag your cameras in exactly the same way. And of course, this works across multiple sites. So what you have is the ability to create different views across multiple sites so you can monitor your key areas. And when you combine this with the GPS maps and also the local maps, you can very, very quickly build a very powerful display or series of displays for your security staff to monitor multiple areas at the same time. On top of that, we do offer system failover, so you can pair other devices with your cluster, and they can one device can be allocated for failover of multiple devices. There's no additional cost for licensing or anything for this. It's just simply a case of having a device that you can spare, and once one device goes down, it'll all fail over to the allocated failover device. And we'll demonstrate that now quickly. As I go through here, I'm just again going to go into that CMS menu. And in this example, I have two live systems. I've got this one dedicated as the host. Now, if I check my two devices, you will see in there I have a DS220 Plus dedicated as a failover server. As you can see, it's simply an add option there at the top, and that works in the same way as adding any cameras. You just allocate that device, add it from your network, and as you can see, that has been dedicated as the failover devices for these devices. Now, I was looking for the video that James had where he pulled the plug in one of his past webinars, but just couldn't really demonstrate this accurately. But take my word for it, this is the point at which we pull the plug, and literally, it took, in this instance, around about 42 seconds for the system to fail over. And as you can see, when I log back in, I can see my host has been redirected, so I'm able to log in through the same UI. I've got several alerts and the green banner there to bring it to my attention that, yes, it's still running, but there is an outage. And as you can see, in CMS, you can see that the devices have now failed over. Functionally, if we go into the cameras themselves, it'd be the same in the monitor view. You can see that my cameras are still there. All of the footage is there in real time. And unfortunately, regretfully, I couldn't film this on my own system because I don't have the right number of licenses. So take my word for it, this disconnected camera at the bottom was not related to this. That was a system that we were trying to set up for something else. And that's CMS in a nutshell. So what I'll do now is I'll just quickly go over what you can expect from large-scale rollouts and all of the tools really to make this as simple as possible for you. The first step, of course, is to put the devices in place. Now, adding additional NASs to your CMS cluster works in exactly the same way as you would add cameras to an individual NAS. You have those same two functions that I mentioned earlier, the scan the network immediately, or if you add manually, you can put in subnets, etc., so that you can scan across multiple networks to bring those in. Once you've connected all of your host devices, you can add the cameras. Again, the local search will pick up any that are on the local network. You can search across networks. And for large-scale implementations, especially if you know what the configurations are and you'd like to have everything pre-configured, you can do that via an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm just going to spend a little bit of time and demonstrate that now. Are we running? No, we're not. Cool. So again, at this level, you just go into IP camera as you usually would for adding a camera. And under more, there is the import or export function. Now, export will allow you to just export everything that you currently have from your device. So if you're migrating from a new old device to a new device, that's a good way to do it. But from the import wizard, you can just select camera configuration and download, and that will give you the spreadsheet that you need to fill out. Now, the spreadsheet has many, many more fields to this for every tiny little detail, but these are the core ones. It will try and guess anything that you haven't given it, so there's default settings for everything. As a minimum, you're going to need to know what the IP address is, the brand and the model of the device, and the username and password to authenticate with it. But it'll take a good guess at everything else. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I made earlier. We're just going to run in this next demo, quickly importing those cameras, and you'll see very quickly how that can save you a lot of time. So now that I've got my completed spreadsheet, I'm going to go back into this system, which has never had cameras before. So I'm going to import a camera list. And this time I'm just going to go to the file that I generated on the last slide, select that. And then it's literally just a case of going next, and it will start the process for you. So it's detected there are 10 lines in there, and you'll see that it will start to populate your cameras. And any that are warnings, you can click on the diagnose to manually set those settings, or you can adjust those in the CSV, so it's nice and easy for you. Sorry, I say CSV, that's a force of habit. It's actually an XLSX file just for technicalities. And then after that, as I said, you can just import your users, your security staff from AD and allocate them to a group. And that's pretty much it. There you have a full rollout, and that should save you plenty of time if you're doing an entire new site, or if you're migrating from a previous system. So I'll just recap this one quickly. This morning we've spoken about what enterprise scale surveillance looks like and what features we've built in to make it easier to scale out. We talked about how to secure the footage once it's set up so that only your staff can access it, and only in the manner that you want them to. We spoke about surveillance CMS. Hopefully, now that I've demonstrated some of its capabilities, you can understand why I'm so enthusiastic about it as a product. And finally, I just went over how you do a large-scale rollout. So that's all from this series for now. But seeing really is believing. So if you like the look of anything you've seen today, please do reach out. We do have test and buy available for both of our cameras, the DVA units, and several larger scale units if you'd like to try them in your business. The best way to get in touch with us is via our inquiry system, or contacting the UK sales team with these details there.